crazy for you guys, so we'll start again in 2024.
Always happy to meet with you.
Good job on your legislation. You're getting a lot of traction in the press.
Thank you.
How are you?
After the mayor tried to take credit.
That's okay. As long as the law gets passed, it makes a difference.
Oh, from Canvas?
That's why I have to figure out properties that you may know about.
No. Two tree legs. Oh, that's nice.
All right, good morning and welcome to the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchises. At this time, we ask if you could please place phones on vibrate or silent mode. Thank you, Chair. We are ready to begin.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a meeting of the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchise. I am Councilmember Kevin Riley, Chair of the Subcommittee. This morning, I am joined by Councilmember Abreu, Hanks, Carr, Showman, Botcher, Chair Lewis, and remotely by Councilmember Moyer. Today, we will hold a public hearing on the rezoning proposal extending the Special Bay Street Corridor District in Staten Island. Before we begin, I recognize the Subcommittee Counsel to review the hearing procedures.
Thank you, Chair. I am Arthur Ha, counsel to this subcommittee. This meeting is being held in hybrid format. Members of the public who wish to testify may do so in person or via Zoom. Members of the public wishing to testify remotely may register by visiting the New York City Council website at www.council.nyc.gov/land use. For those of you here with us in the room today, please see one of the sergeant at arms to prepare and submit a speaker card if you wish to testify. Members of the public may also view a live stream broadcast of this meeting at the council's website. When called to testify, if joining remotely, you will remain muted until recognized by the chair or myself to speak. Public testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per witness. If you have additional testimony you would like the subcommittee to consider, or if you have written testimony you would like to submit instead of appearing before the subcommittee, please email it to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number and or project name in the subject line of your email. Chair Riley will now continue with today's agenda.
Thank you, Council. I will now open the public hearing on preconsidered LU items relating to the 541-545 Bay Street rezoning proposal in Councilmember Hanks' district in Staten Island. This is a private application to extend the Special Bay Street Corridor District as well as map a mandatory inclusionary housing area over the proposed new special district area. For anyone wishing to testify on these items remotely, if you have not already done so, you must register online, and you may do that now by visiting the council's website at council.nyc.gov/land use. And once again, for anyone with us in person, please see one of the sergeants to prepare and submit a speaker's card. If you would prefer to submit written testimony, you can always do so by emailing it to us at landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And at this time, I would like to allow Councilmember Hanks to give remarks regarding this project.
Thank you, Chair Riley. Good morning, everyone. I'm Camila Hanks, council member of the 49th District, and I'm here to discuss the 541-545 Bay Street rezoning. This application proposes to extend the Special Bay Street Corridor District zoning one block on the south in order to facilitate development of an 8-story, 81-unit apartment building with ground floor commercial space. As we are all aware, our city is in the midst of a housing crisis, and this certainly extends to Staten Island. The development of housing and affordable housing units for all income levels is crucial to begin to address this problem. As a local to this area, I am deeply passionate about supporting the much-needed inclusive development that could bring housing and jobs to benefit this community. The need for economic development and housing in District 49, especially in this neighborhood, is clearly evident and includes both market rate and affordable housing, including through MIH. I would like to thank the Staten Island Community Board 1, the Borough President, the City Planning Commission, my colleagues in the zoning subcommittee and in the council for their thoughtful evaluation of this proposal, and I look forward to hearing from the development team and from my constituents at the public hearing at today's meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Riley.
Thank you, Councilmember Hanks. Council, please call the first panel for this item.
The applicant panel consists of Eric Palatnik and Alvin Shine, who will be participating remotely.
Council, please administer the affirmation.
Applicants, please raise your right hand and state your name for the record. I'll ask you each in turn to answer the following. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in your answer to all council member questions? Mr. Palatnik.
I do.
Mr. Shine.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the viewing public, if you need an accessible version of this presentation, please send an email request to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And now the applicant team may begin. Panelists, as you begin, I just ask that you please reinstate your name and organization for the record. You may begin.
Hello, good morning again. My name is Eric Palatnik. I'm an attorney, and I'm representing Bay Street Development and the applicant. And I'd like to start off first by saying thank you to all of you. You're some of the most reasonable people in city government. And I'd like to thank you very much for the leadership you've shown over the city, particularly during the last 3 years when we've been confronted with a series of events that I don't think anybody could have anticipated. So thank you. That's more important, I think, than anything that's going on in this hearing. But going to the housing crisis and going to a land use application, we're here today for a rezoning, as was just explained by the chair, to basically extend what's called the Bay Street corridor. And I could see there's really only 2 people here that are from the island that probably even know what the Bay Street corridor is. For those of you who don't, there's 3. Good. Okay. So, and that's with all due respect to everybody in the city. The island's its own place. Bay Street is a very unique place. It's got tons of potential. It went through the last uptick in real estate economic activity and was missed out. If you look out at Williamsburg, you look out at Jersey City, you look out at all along the waterfront surrounding New York City, Manhattan, I should say, and all of those communities have developed. Hoboken, all of them. Bay Street and Staten Island have lagged behind. Part of the reason is primarily because there's not been an incentive for developers to build on Bay Street, which is the main drag. The councilwoman has been a leader in that discussion, along with Community Planning Board 1, who nearly unanimously supported this application. The unique part about this rezoning that I'm going to get into in a moment is not the rezoning itself. Everybody's for the rezoning, I think. The borough president issued a negative recommendation. We don't know why. He didn't state any reasons on it. But it was unanimous at the community board, and the council person must have been in contact for years. So we're not quite sure what happened at the borough president, and we've tried to reach out. But nonetheless, it is a well-supported community application. Bay Street needs an uptick. It's had plenty of affordable housing at lower income bands being created. But the demographic that I believe everybody wants to see live in that block and live on that street that has discretionary income that could support future businesses, so that the gates that are rolled down right now and the people that are on the street, that are some of which are a little strung out on drugs, could be overcome by people that are working, coming into jobs every single day, raising families and spending money in shops and boutiques and all the things and the likes that which we see all around the city in every neighborhood. And Bay Street should have it. And we encourage you to take a ride down it. And I'm saying this after in-depth talks with Community Planning Board 1 and the council member and others in the community. So where this application, what I'm going to present to you is the building. I think you're going to like it. It's an 80-unit building. It's got 25 affordable units. The kink in the whole thing is what option level the MIH should be at. And we've been talking with the council member about option level 4, workforce housing, which I know is not an orthodox request in this council. However, this is a unique situation and a unique block. And the council member I'm going to go through in a minute has been very forthcoming with what bands of income she thinks people should be at in order to inspire that demographic to get the income to come into the streets. And I'll explain where we think it should be at. And we're not done talking. We have a big conversation that we're in the middle of. But I wanted to set the tone and the table for my presentation so that you know nobody here, I don't think any of us, me or the council member or the community, are talking about whether a building should be built here. I think we're all in agreement that a building should definitely be built here. We're trying to figure out what income bands should be within the MIH component within the building. So with that as my overview, I'll just go through the presentation rather quickly because the building is a very straightforward building. We are on Bay Street. If you can go to the next slide, please. You can't really read the stats that are up here, but the right side shows you what we're asking for, which is what I just explained. It's an 8-story building. What the extension of the Bay Street corridor is going to do, the property is right now in an R6 zoning district. And because it's in an R6, when an R6 property is on a street, a wide street, they get a benefit within 100 feet of the corner. The Bay Street corridor extends that benefit over the whole property. So what we're seeking to do is to get the benefit of the R6 over our entire property. And that's facilitating the 8-story building, and it's a slight uptick in our floor area, and that's what this whole request is about. The building will have 42 parking spaces. It'll have ground floor commercial use, which will be the existing grocery/vegetable fruit store that's there now, that's desperately needed in the community. It's the only supermarket in the immediate area, and it's a market. I wouldn't call it a supermarket. Next slide, please. This shows you the property. The property is in the middle here. What's important to call out is Staten Island Railway runs behind the property. The building that's on the left is a fully affordable development. The council person can tell you more details about its MIH level, and the building on the right is a fully affordable development, and the council person can tell you more about the MIH level. But that's the point of the MIH discussion that we're having, is that the new developments that have come up have been catering to a very low band, and there's been no affordability created for working class people, the workforce housing, people that are the school teachers, that are the firefighters, that are the young people that are looking for housing. It doesn't exist because they overqualify for the lower income bands. So you're left with a workforce that doesn't have an affordable housing option to them. Next slide, please. The next slide shows you the zoning map. You can see the gray area that I'm talking about. The left side, our site is in the circle, in the dots in the middle. The gray area is the Bay Street corridor. You can see that on the left side, we're not in the gray area, and the right side, we are. That's the whole request. We were left out of the Bay Street corridor when it was created some 7 or 8 years ago, which, by the way, it hasn't done what it should have done 7 or 8 years ago. It was supposed to inspire Jersey City. It was supposed to inspire Hoboken. It hasn't inspired much. I think there's been 5 or 6 new buildings built since it was created, many of which are at that very, very low income band. Next slide, please. This just shows you the building. Oh, no, you can go to the next slide. There you go. This shows you the building, again, from a different perspective. I'm not going to waste your time going through this. If you go to the next slide, and go 2 ahead if you can, please. This slide starts to show you what's going on in the community around us. Just as far as from a land use perspective, because you are here to govern land use, of course, and you want to see the buildings fit within the character. We're proposed to be 80 feet, and you can see the heights of the buildings that are all around us are somewhat analogous. It's 63 feet. You see buildings at 60 feet, 75 feet, 123 feet is under construction right now. So we're not out of character size-wise. And you can click ahead now. I think we can go ahead, maybe skip right to slide 22 if you can. It's numbered. I'll show you the wet proofing, and then I'll come back to the affordability. The property is within a flood zone. It did not take on water during Sandy, crazily enough, but it has the capability to. So it is proposed to be wet flood proofed, and I just wanted to call that out to your attention. And now if you can go back a couple of slides, you can go back to the MIH, and that's at page 18. So this is where we started with when we started the application, and this is the guts of the discussions that we've been having with the council member's office. We all started off with the idea that bigger is better, more money is better than less money, so 115 AMI, that should be good to help a developer in this situation be the seed developer in the community. There are not many other buildings here that are market rate, so the thought would be that this building would inspire others to come and build. But what the council member rightfully pointed out to us is that at a 115 average AMI, because of the condition of the neighborhood right now economically, the AMI unit, the MIH units would be exceeding market rate. So what we've been in talks with the council member to do right now is to modify the MIH level to a level that meets the market and creates MIH units that lock in affordability at today's rates. But as we've been talking about, rates are going to raise in the future, and those rates are going to stay on the MIH. So those will become the affordable units of the future, while attracting people to come there today at market rate that could spend money in the community and inspire, hopefully, somebody to open up a restaurant, a bar, somebody go get a drugstore or a dry cleaners, things like that. And that's what we're hoping to achieve with the council member. So that is our entire presentation. I'd be happy to go into the more details on the building and the parking and all that jazz if you would like. And council member, I hope I clearly accurately described our discussions till now. And if I didn't, please correct me. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Eric. I just have a few questions, and I'm going to pass it to Councilmember Hanks, and then see if any other members on the committee have questions. If the council were to disapprove this application or make any changes that the applicant will consider untenable, what would happen to this site?
It would probably remain as it is.
And that is what?
It's right now. It's a two-story supermarket, food store type establishment. If it was to be dramatically changed, but I don't feel like it's going in that direction by any stretch of the imagination.
Thank you. Is the wet flood proofing the ground floor enough to protect the entire building from potential future flooding?
Yes. Yeah. It's obviously it's meant so that way the ground floor can be let go if in case a flood comes in. So that's how it's designed, that things on the first floor will be lost, but the upper floor will be safe. All the mechanicals will be above that, and any building systems and anything of the like. So the building itself will not be in any way, shape, or form damaged other than the ground floor, which obviously, if we should have an event like that, will take on water.
Is the building accessible to transportation?
Building is very well accessible. I didn't mention, there's a slide on it, I don't want to waste your time, but I did mention it's up against the Staten Island Railway, which is right behind. There's a stop right behind it. Of course, the ferry is just down the block, a mile or so, but it's a bus ride away, and there's plenty of bus transportation. So by Staten Island definition of good transit, it's got the best.
We got the best of the best.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's not saying a lot. It's not saying a lot when you're on the island. It's a very card-dependent place.
I was going to get into that. So being that it's very car dependent on Staten Island, I'm pretty sure the community board was pushing for more parking.
Yeah, we actually had, I didn't bore you with the slides. We had a very in-depth, we worked very closely with the community board. Nick is the chair of the board. He was very forthcoming with everything. Their biggest concern was not the number of spaces. He felt as if we had enough. Their biggest concern was that we were using stackers in the development. And there are not that many developments on the island that have stackers. It tends to be more of the other boroughs tend to have more than the island. So that was their biggest concern, that we were using stackers. But at the end of the day, they were comfortable. They understood that stackers is all we could do, because the only alternative would have been to build a parking structure, which is quite expensive. And thank you for pulling that up while I was talking. As you could see there, it's not really, and this I think was the saving grace in my argument, is we're up against the Staten Island Railway, and right between us and the parking lot. So the parking lot with the stackers is not as if it's up against homes next to us that are going to hear any clanking or anything like that. We're up against the train.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have. Councilmember Hanks?
Thank you, Chair Riley. Thank you so much, Mr. Palatnik. I appreciate your testimony. This is a project that I am very interested in. Just to give my colleagues a little background, this is my neighborhood. I live right down the street from this proposed development. I have been in this whole economic development, building, changing Staten Island's North Shore along the waterfront for about 2 decades, and I've seen it all. And so where we are on this project, the questions that I am going to be asking is for you and the developer. What was the thought process in coming up with this proposed development, and what would inspire people in this particular area to want to pay a higher rent when the surrounding areas, as you testified, is all low income? And I think that where we want to get to is that balance and that middle ground that understands that there needs to be affordability for the folks like, my children who make $50,000 a year who are still living at home, and the balance between some, folks who want to pay a little bit higher. Pioneers nowadays, it's a very difficult sweet spot to reach. And so I need to understand your like, do you understand this neighborhood in the way that would make you think that a project like this will work? That's the question.
Great, thank you very much, Councilmember. Well, as you've met the applicants here, and you know the applicants to be local business people, you know them to be involved in the local business improvement district and active in all sorts of civic and business endeavors, and you know them, of course, to be local real estate property owners as well. So they've analyzed the community, and what you said about low income. To your defense, it's true about the housing in the area, that it's low income, but it's not a low income community. As a matter of fact, the demographics and the income levels in the community are incrementally substantially higher than other parts of the city. So it's not a matter that it's low income. So finding people to purchase a home or rent, I should say in this case, to rent a home is not going to be impossible. And that's I know we've spoken about this. Pete Davidson, we all know Pete Davidson from Saturday Night Live, right? So he lived in a place called Irby. And then I don't know if you all know that when he was the Bay Street Landing. Excuse me. Thank you for correcting me. So he moved out, obviously, but when he brought some level of cognizance to the area. What's been happening is Bay Street Landing and places like Irby have had trouble leasing up until now, as you know. But recently they've leased up. And they are now almost at full occupancy. And we have some communications from local brokers, which we could submit to you, that show that they're getting decent rents there. A two-bedroom in Irby is ranging at $3,000 a month, $3,150. A one-bedroom at Irby is getting $2,400 a month. And a studio at Irby at the market rate is getting $2,300 a month. And they have tenancies within the building. What we feel we can offer in our building, to your point, is we are offering larger units at that price and even slightly lower. So we think we're going to hit a sweet spot in the community for, A, there is no more housing available because, as I said, those buildings, Bay Street Landing and Irby, have leased up. There's not much else out there. So this is going to create more of an opportunity for people such as your children who are looking for housing, as well as elderly people, not elderly people, I'm at that level, people that are about to retire, that are looking to move out of their homes, empty nesters. And we feel that there'll be plenty of people that'll be looking for housing at this exact dollar point.
Thank you so much. So to your point, and you mentioned when you testified Hoboken and, you know, why folks are moving to Hoboken. And that brings me to something that's really important to me. So what are the amenities in this building offering to attract the tenants that you think would be paying these rents? So just to give my colleagues an understanding that Bay Street Landing are condominiums, and it has always been a bifurcated neighborhood that the railroad tracks have separated the haves from the have-nots. When Irby was built, it was a then market rate building that had 20% affordable units, but the tenants didn't renew their leases because they didn't feel that what they were paying, they were getting anything out of it. They didn't have amenities. They didn't have, we have transportation issues. So we have this space in between being something and existing as we are. And so why would anyone pay the rents that you're proposing? And what would you have in this building to attract the tenants, like the Hoboken, who are leaving for Hoboken, who have incredible amenities in these buildings? And so how is that, in line with what you're proposing with these workforce options?
Right. Well, of course, obviously, we're not competing with the TF Cornerstones and the Relateds of the world, and we don't claim to be. So there's not going to be any infinity pools. There's not going to be any steam saunas in the building and things like that. People have to go to a higher grade of lifestyle to achieve that. We are proposing to include many of the things that people have come to rely upon, though, in everyday life. There'll be things such as a weight room for people to work out. There'll be a place for Amazon deliveries. There'll be parking on site. There'll be bicycle storage on site. There'll be a rooftop terrace. There'll be ability to have a barbecue up on the roof and sit under a veranda and look out at the sunset and watch the harbor. That's about the extent of it. But I should say, up until the time we all got very fancy in the last couple of years, when I bought my first apartment in New York City in 2006, That was the amenity list, and I thought I was living large. That was big. You know, we had a package room, I had a community room, and I had a place to work out. I didn't work out once. I never used a community room, and my wife got all the packages. But it was there. That's what we're offering to people. We're hoping that with this building that it will plant the seed, like I said, and the next developer will be able to come in and just like we're building off of Irby and see that there's people renting that, and then they'll build that next building that has more of those sexy, stylistic attributes that we're starting to see all around us in Williamsburg, Long Island City, Jersey City, Hoboken, and all those places.
Thank you. So we're marketing to millennials, and they definitely want all those fabulous
I know
things,
they do.
by the way, not like us, who, you know. So that will lead me to, how would this project benefit the community, and has the developer or property owner figured out what kind of community benefits that I feel that development, if you're going to invest in a neighborhood, then you literally have to invest in the neighborhood. And, you know, Tappan Park is there. There is the waterfront. And how is this proposal going to add to the community to make it the community that you're speaking of that would command this? Because that's what my goal is with the entire master plan of the North Shore.
Well,
How does this fit in the grander scheme?
That actually was discussed at the community board, and a couple different things are going to help here. The first thing, of course, is the provision of the affordable housing that is going to lock in that housing at that rate for an eternity, meaning that what we're locking in today is being a $2,000 or $3,000 apartment. 4 or 5 years from now, maybe a $4,000 apartment, and that's going to be that's the first thing. You're going to create a solid stock of housing that will remain affordable, and this will be one of the first ones at this income level to attract that level of demographic. The next thing that we're going to be doing is including a supermarket downstairs. We're working very hard to maintain that use. That was discussed at length at the community board. I was representing Lidl that was coming into the site not too far away from you that pulled out of the community, and when I was working on that job, I learned from everybody in the area that there are no supermarkets that are actively engaged in trying to come into the neighborhood. So to see that he's maintaining the supermarket was felt to be a very positive endorsement by the community. The other things is that, as I mentioned before, the ownership of the building is incredibly involved in the community. So by encouraging them to stay here, they sit on the bid, they go to community board meetings, they get involved with everybody with the revitalization of Bay Street. So to keep a personality like that engaged in your community, that's actively involved in it and has a stake in how it turns out in the future, and the success of this building is directly dependent upon whether or not they eat tomorrow, I would think would be the best community benefit you could ever have, as opposed to having, and with no disrespect to a related or a gigantic corporation come in, that really this is just one of, I came in downstairs on this building, there's a logo for AM Realty on the building, and it's actually got a logo. I could only imagine the corporation that owns the building we're sitting in right now, how large it is. The building that we're asking to build is being built by a local, somebody that's going to stay in your neighborhood just like you, that grew up in the area like you said, and is planning on staying here. So I think you're going to see more community benefits out of this than any other project because of that. They're going to want to see it succeed. The better it succeeds, the better they're going to do. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you so much. So there's a Western Beef down the street. So
Yes.
You're saying that there's do you have any indication that will not be there?
I've heard rumors the Western Beef won't be there much longer, but
Right.
I'd be hard-pressed. I mean, with all due respect to Western Beef is an entirely different animal when it comes to serving food and selling food product. I mean, they're selling it to a very specific clientele at Western Beef. I would dare say Western Beef is not everybody's cup of tea for a supermarket. I think it's one option, but it's a very outlier option. I wouldn't say it's the normal establishment for people to go shopping in.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Riley. Any of my colleagues have questions?
Thank you, Councilmember Hanks, Councilmember Botcher, and then Councilmember Carr.
Just want to support my colleague from Staten Island's efforts, and also back up the need for middle income bands. There's always a push for very low income which we absolutely need, but we also need a range of incomes. And the truth is that people who are school teachers, nurses, administrative assistants, firefighters, they are also locked out of the housing market now. So in our district, particularly in Community Ward 4, they're really pushing for the inclusion of middle income bands, people making $50,000 a year, $65,000 a year, $70,000 a year, which unfortunately is not a lot of money in New York anymore. So I'm really hoping that as a body, we start orienting our thinking that way, and that we build housing for formerly homeless, supportive housing, very low income, middle income, and market rate. We have to build everything, all of the above, in New York.
If I could just add a comment to what he just said, if
Yeah.
it's okay, Councilmember?
Sure, please.
First of all, I'm in every single community board every month, every day. What you're saying, I'm hearing reverberate in quite a few community boards, and actually, if you could believe it or not, I'm hearing it in the community boards you wouldn't think I would be hearing it in. I will say this, the reason you're seeing that and why that tide is shifting that way is because it's infinitely easier to build the lower income housing because the subsidies and the financial pipeline is there to support it from the government. The demographic and the financial bands that you're talking about and we're talking about right now, there's zero government input to. So for a developer to meet that gray area, the developer that's building the fully affordable, believe it or not, they're doing okay, because those developments are being built with federal subsidies, low-income tax credits, and a host of other laundry list of various entitlements that are being summoned together to provide low interest rates. There's also, every banking institution has a very low interest rates for those types of developments. But once you start getting into the discussion that we're starting to have right now, which has really been an off-topic discussion for years, the banks shy away. So all of a sudden you're up to like walking into a car dealer, you're paying full price, you're paying full VIG on the mortgage, and as a result, the developer is left in the middle trying to find a way to squeeze it, and that's why you're not seeing as much built as should be, because it's not as easy. The lower income is actually economically easier to build. So just this point. So, and thank you all for the spirited conversation. I love this.
Thank you. Councilman McCarr?
Thank you, Chair. It's good to see you, Eric, as
Nice to
always.
see you,
So I just wanted to clarify what you had said earlier in your testimony. You mentioned you've received no feedback or explanation for the disapproval from the borough president. So have there been any conversations at all, even at the staff level, about this application in the lead up to this?
We just realized it the other day because everybody was talking the other day, and somebody went on to Zap, and all of a sudden they saw it on Zap. We didn't see it. Nobody knew about the letter. I don't know if the council member was aware of it. I don't think the community board was aware of it. So we all, we don't know what happened. I don't know if it was just a mistake. There was a staff change in the borough president's land use division over the past few months. There's nothing filled out on the paperwork at all. It's just there's the box approve, disapprove. It's just disapprove. So we're trying to find out right now what caused that.
And before this letter became known, you've had what kind
positive meetings with the borough president. We met with the borough president's office when Mr. Englert was there 2 years ago. It was extremely positive, and I think the council member was alert to that meeting too. So we don't know what happened, and we'll find out. Like I said, there was nothing in writing. So I think if they really meant to oppose it, they would have written a very strongly worded letter with their reasons.
Yes, well, CB1's rarely near unanimous about anything.
Yeah,
so
and they supported me. That's a 25-year career high for me.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, for sure. So I just wanted to get some clarity on that. Listen, I think that the Bay Street corridor mapping, as previously constituted, I think was a matter of concern for many of us, even though I don't represent the area in question. I am on Bay Street a lot, and that's because the economic driver of Bay Street are people like myself who come from other parts of the borough to patronize places there. Councilmember Hanks has a lot of great restaurants in her district, and so obviously I'm there frequently. But I think it is an interesting notion to kind of take a new spin on the corridor in the way that you're looking to do with this different band of affordability. And so I just wanted to also clarify, there's 25 units that you're proposing to be affordable. Is that still a matter of discussion, or is that the where things
That's
stand at the
30% of the floor area.
Yeah.
Is the 25 units.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that the council member is not going to ask us for more, because we are stressed financially to the max. And the idea would be to play with the affordability level to lower the bands down.
And
that's
so,
the idea.
what of of the different unit types are the ones that you're looking to be the affordable ones?
I have a sheet right here, which I could pass up after the hearing, but it's, let me just get to the right sheet here. So there'll be 2 studios in the affordable range. There'll be 18 one-bedrooms, and there'll be 5 two-bedrooms. And that we could play around with on the mix. But that mix was changed after after city planning asked us to change the mix a little bit, too. Here, you could pass that up. You could have that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's all my questions. I think
Thank
that
you.
this is a really interesting project, and I think it's certainly very timely. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilmember Carr. Oh, thank you, Councilmember Carr. There being no further questions, this applicant panel is excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on 541-545 Bay Street rezoning proposal remotely or in person?
Any members of the public participating remotely who wish to testify regarding this proposal should use the raise hand button now. And anyone in the room with us today wishing to testify should come forward, see one of the sergeants, prepare and submit a speaker card. Okay, Chair, it appears that we do not have anyone, no members of the public to testify.
Thank you, Council. There being no other members of the public who wish to testify on these pre-considered LUs related to the 545 Bay Street rezoning proposal, the public hearing is now closed and the item is laid over. And that concludes today's business. I would like to thank the members of the public, my colleagues, subcommittee council, land use and other council staff, and the Sergeant at Arms for participating in today's meeting. This meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you.
You started a great conversation.